I don't know if you can see those girls flying around, but they are just loving it. These guys are a brand new package that I installed to show my beginner bee class how to install bees. And so these guys are all enjoying themselves. They're making their little flights. Don't believe they're getting robbed out, but everybody is really enjoying themselves and getting a chance to fly after a whole week of being in a package. so cool. The mason bees came out today. I don't think they've been out yet. They are flying around like crazy. And you know, the funny thing is, when I get close to them, they're very shy, so they stop flying. But if you can look really, really close, you can see all the mason bees flying. And then we have these 3 other boxes here. And then we have another box up near the house. I'm gonna go check that one out too. This is so cool. I don't know if you can see, oh yeah, there you can see the little shadow. This house has bees as well. This is gonna be so much fun this year. Oh, I love mason bees.
See if
I'm taping right now. are the bees. So there's different kinds of packages. There's this plastic package and there's this wooden package. They all come about the same way. They have a food container in the center, in the wooden ones and in the plastic. And then there's always a queen cage as well. So the queen cages can be either a California queen cage, which is in this one today. I don't have an example of that right now, but it's a small cage and it only has one queen in it. There's no attendants. And then this is your regular queen cage. I'll just take a look for you there. Okay, so here's your regular queen cage. This one usually will have attendant bees in it. Make sure your queens are alive before you put them in, because if they aren't, I need to know right off. And then this is another kind of cage. This one you can hang like this. This comes with a little cover on it. And if you wanted to get in, and the way that we put the queen in actually, is that you flip this open here, and you stick the queen in there, and then you close this up. So the way that this opens, though, is that this opens up here, and then this opens here. So it's pretty easy to open anyway. So there's a couple of different kinds of queen cages. All right, so now let's look at this. You've got the wooden cage with the queen in here and the can, or the plastic one. What you need to do is you need to take the can out and the queen and then put something over this so that you can just take a moment to just breathe. So usually the way this comes, I'll just show you this one first. The way that this comes is this can is in here, this cover is on here, the queen cage is in here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your hive tool, you're gonna take this and pull it off on the wooden cage. That's gonna come off. You keep this because this is gonna go over this so that the bees don't fly out at you. Then after you're done with that, there's no bees coming out right now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your can and you're going to pry it open. Now sometimes when a can has been in a cage for a long time, it will get wax around it. So it may be a struggle opening it up and pulling it up, but just keep bringing it back and forth and back and forth. And other times there's no problem at all. But just back and forth, and then keep your piece of wood here, put this over so that your bees aren't flying. And if they do start coming up, all you have to do is just knock it a little bit and the bees will all fall down to the bottom. It's not also a bad idea to just spray a little sugar water on them and then they get heavy and they'll be eating sugar water off each other.
So even today, with this temperature, is okay?
I wouldn't spray sugar water on them today.
I was told today
No,
not to
today
do
is in the 40s, so you really don't, and you don't need to sprinkle sugar water on them completely at all. It's just that if they were, coming up, but again, just knock it down, the bees will be there. You just kind of work kind of quickly. Okay, so now we got to get the queen cage out. So now what I got to do is I got to go in, find the queen cage, okay, pull it out, put the cover back on, and now I've got my cage. No matter if it's, usually they're going to be wooden. They're going to be either a California cage or one of these. What I do is I will pound nails in and make it like a bunny ears, so you can see the little bunny ears there. And that is going to go in between my frames. So what I'm going to do is when I get ready, I'm going to take my queen cage, I'm going to take one of my frames out, because I'm only going to need 9 right now if you're using this cage. If you're using the California queen cages, you can put all your frames in because it's really skinny. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your queen in here, and she's all ready. And I'm going to go through this all again when I do the real installation. And you're going to take out a couple of frames because you want the bees to have some space. So what you're going to do is when you open up your box, and I'll just show you how you're going to do that quickly. So this is how your cage is. What I do is I take my hive tool, and I pry these pieces of wood off. So I've done that on this side. So I pried the pieces off here, and you try to keep the screen still on here so that the bees aren't flying out. It doesn't. Wear your veil and gloves too while you're doing this. But what you're going to do is when you're ready, you're going to knock the bees down and then pull your screen down and pour the bees over the queen, okay? This way it's really easy to get all your bees out. I've seen other places where you took them and you shook the bees like this back and forth. It's just unnecessary roughness. So anyway, get all your bees out, then just knock it and most of your bees will all be out of your cage, okay? So that's that. And then you're going to put everything back together. You're going to put your inner cover on. You're going to put your sugar water on. You're going to put the cage around it so that the bees don't get it robbed out, put your cover on, and you'll be all set. Okay? All right, here we go. All right, so let me prepare. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this wooden box because this is not a wooden box installation. I'm also going to put my socks over my pants just because when I knock the bees in there, if for some reason there's bees flying around, I don't want them going up my pant legs. So that's what I'm going to do first. So socks going over my pants. You don't have to have a full suit or anything like that. I personally like to wear a hat when I wear my veils because I don't like having my veils fall in my face. So there's my hat. And then this is my veil that I'm going to wear today. So what I did is for this installation, because this is like a beginner, I don't have any comb that's drawn out. And that's because I want to be just like a beginner. Not really. I like being, I like knowing what I'm doing. It doesn't look like I know what I'm doing right here though. Okay. I don't think I actually wear a hat usually when I wear this one. But anyway, okay, so I've taken out 5 frames. I have 5 other frames in this box here, and I'm ready to go. I've got my bottom board on. I've got my entrance reducer on. I have a landing board. You don't have to have a landing board, but you can if it works for you. All right, so I do have a leftover cover that I'm going to use when I open up my box here. This box here came from California, and they happen to like plastic boxes for some reason. I don't know. I guess they're easier. I don't know if they're less expensive or what they do, but
I heard that they were less expensive, which I thought
yeah,
was odd that
but
the
it's
plastic
plastic
would be less expensive.
I know.
It was weird, but I did
ridiculous.
read that.
Yeah, but they're good bees, and that's why I get them. So, okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pry up the can, the sugar can. Oh, this is pretty good. Oh my gosh, that is so warm. The bees are really hot in there. So here's my cover. I'm just gonna put this cover on them just for a minute. You may have a couple of bees flying around. It's not a big deal. The sugar water can be used still, but there shouldn't be that much, but hopefully you've got a little bit because otherwise your bees would be like starving. So I'm gonna knock these guys down, pull my queen cage out, and put my cover on. Okay? So now I can show you. There is your queen.
Yeah.
Okay, she's moving around. This little metal tab is just for when they put her in this box. Do not hang your queen by that little tab because she could break off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little cork end, here, and I'm going to take the cork end out and put a marshmallow in there so that the bees can still have a little bit of time to get to know her before she pops out. Okay? So I'm not going to do a direct release. What I like to do
So the other end doesn't have the candy.
Nope, only one end has candy on it. So what I like to do is, and on this one here, you don't have to worry about whether you put it on the top or the bottom because there's no attendant bees that are going to go over the cover. That's why sometimes when we put one of the other cages in, we'll put it up like this with the cork end up so that the queen can come out and no bees will die and fall on top of that. But in this case, all it is the queen. So it doesn't really matter if you put her up or down. I personally do her up all the time anyway. It's just one of those things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my nail and pry this cork out. Make sure that your queen is not up there because you do not want her flying out because that will be a real bummer. Okay, so then I'm going to stick my marshmallow in there and then I'll be all set to go. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put my little bunny ears here. I'm not going to do this on the hive because that just will rouse the bees. Okay, so I put 2 nails in, and what I'm going to do, because I have such strength, is I'm going to bend the nails. I'm going to bend the nails over, And these are going to be in between 2 frames. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to put the bees down for a minute. I'm going to set the queen up right in the center. I usually like to go about 3/4 of the way back, and I usually like to have her facing forward. That's just me. Okay, and I said we were going to put a marshmallow in.
Yeah.
So
How does that come out?
I'm going to take that cork out, and I'm going to watch her the whole time. Hopefully not watch her fly away.
What are you using to get it out?
I'm just
with?
using a nail.
So you have a little nail.
I just had an extra nail around. Okay, so there's the cork that I took out, and my finger is over the hole. The other end has nothing. The other end has nothing on it. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to take my marshmallow, stick that in here. Okay, you can see the marshmallows in there now. Now she's going into the hive. 5 frames, 2 on one side, 3 on another. It doesn't matter if you use 6, whatever. You can do whatever you like. Now we're ready to put the bees in. Already, we're ready to put the bees in. You're not going to use any smoke. You can use a little sugar water on them if you want, but today is cool enough that the bees are not going to be cranky. They're not going to be flying around a whole lot. You guys that are videotaping this may want to step away a little bit. You might want to, Sarah, you might want to come around just so that you have a way out, just in case. Yeah, that's okay.
So who eats the marshmallow? The other bees or the queen?
Both.
Okay.
But mostly the other bees.
Okay.
Yep. Because they want her to come out. So it's their way of getting her out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get the bees, pour them over the queen, and go from there. Okay? You guys ready? Here we go. All right, I'm going to knock it down. And I'm going to open this up. This is not a lot of bees flying around, so don't worry.
I'll just say it's not.
Okay? And there are your bees. Woohoo! Beautiful. All right, here we go. I'm going to knock them down and then pour them over the queen. That's a good size package. And then we just put this out in the front. Hopefully most of the bees are out. Okay? Most of the bees are out. They all want to be around their queen. They know how to get into the hive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other frames, and I'm only going to put in 9, remember. So now I'm going to put my frames in from the sides, gently, and push them in. From the side, and push them in. Again, to the other side. You don't want to squish any bees. And if you put them in gently enough, the bees will move around. So you don't have to kill anybody. Now with that queen cage, that's a California queen cage, you can actually put in 10 frames. Especially when these frames are brand new. So that is 10 frames. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that all of your frames are close together, squished together in the center, as close as you can do it. It's not quite enough room with the queen cage, but it's enough. You got plenty of room so you can have 10 frames. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the inner cover on, and you want to be careful. There's usually a side on your inner cover that's possibly flat or has like a 1/4 of an inch of room. In this case, I'm going to put it upside down so there's that 1/4 of an inch of room so that the bees have a little bit more space. They are putting off so much heat right now that they just need a little bit more chance to get air if they can. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the bees a little bit. You can blow on them a little bit if you want to get them out of the way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this cover on gently. Try not to kill any bees. Move it back and forth until you can feel that there's no bees there, no crunch. Okay, now you've got your deep hive body, your inner cover, your queen is in there. Everybody's happy. And now we're going to put sugar water on. Now what I do with my sugar water, doesn't matter what kind of feeder you use, but if it's really cold weather, you don't want to use a top feeder You could use a mason jar, or you could use a gallon feeder or a paint can. And what I like to do is I spend a ton of money on little spacers to give them a little bit more room underneath my mason jar. So what I do in the beginning is I use a mason jar. You don't want to pour it over the hole ever, or on the bees. You want to pour it over onto the side, make sure that it is coming out a little bit, and then put it right on top on those sticks. That just gives a little bit more airflow, so your bees are a little bit more comfortable. Now you're going to put your extra hive body on. Again, try not to kill any bees if you can. Especially as beginners, you're going to feel so terrible. And then your outer cover, and those guys should be good. Leave them for 3 to 5 days. Come back, check to make sure your queen is out, and if she's not, you can release her. The way that you would release her is you would take your hive tool, somewhere here, but take your hive tool and just pry the screen out and then let her out, putting your hand over her so that she doesn't just fly off.